Pacers lose to the Celtics. It's 18-18, and then they're down 20 in a snap. A brutal first half. Pascal Siakam, amazing again. We have to talk about his all-star candidacy, the game itself, the notebook from a weird one on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Thursday, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and Circle City Spin. And today, the Pacers went to Boston. They played the Celtics for the fourth time in what feels like a week, and they get their butts kicked. The Celtics win this one handily. They're up 20 at halftime. A good third quarter for the Pacers that deserves a lot of discussion today, but mostly a struggle bus kind of night for the Pacers, who could not get their offense flowing and could not get anything for anyone not named Pascal Siakam going. Their defense, as soon as the bench came in, kind of fell apart, and the game got away from them. So much to get to, including all of that. Siakam's rising all-star case, despite the Pacers' poor record. Lots of little things in this game that were interesting. Tyrese Walker, 19 points, and many, many more notes from Pacers Celtics. We start with the start of the game, because I actually think the way this first quarter went was weirdly telling in terms of how quickly this fell apart, right? It felt like, to me, early in this game, the Pacers actually had something going. They were ahead at one point early. I mean, it was like 14-13, but they were winning, right? And their offense looked okay with the starters on the floor, getting a good shot here. There's Johnny Furphy for three. There's Neesmith at the cup. It wasn't just like reliance on their star player to open the game. Powerful rim defense early, so jumpers were the name of the game. And with no good shot creation for either team, the Pacers, who are better on defense than offense this year, it actually felt like a game that they could really get it going. And then the bench came in. And this is becoming like not a trend that I'm ready to dive into for certain yet, but as much as I like this new look bench the Pacers have been going to with both Quentin and Isaiah Jackson, and then TJ McConnell, Tyrese Walker, Ben Shepherd, some of those five on the floor at the same time, or most of those five on the floor, that's a pretty good defensive bench. And they came in, and it's 18-18 with 3:47 to go. And most of them are out on the floor. Tony Bradley came in for Isaiah Jackson later in the quarter. When Tony Bradley came in for Isaiah Jackson, it's because Jackson had two fouls very quickly. They were already down 9, right? By the end of the quarter, they were down 10. That group, for as good as it sounds, McConnell, Jackson, Shepherd, Walker, and Jackson, they don't play all five of those guys at the same time. Neesmith's with them sometimes, Siakam's with them sometimes, whatever. But that combo of players, as good as they can be on defense, it's not a lot of offensive punch. That's why they frequently turn to 1, 2, 3, whatever of the starters alongside them to have the right balance. Ben Mathurin's return, when it does happen, will certainly balance this out. But this game exposed the weakness of that, is if you rely on that group to be solid defensively and you get nothing on the offensive end. Tyrese Walker was the best scorer of that group by far. TJ McConnell, Tony Bradley, Quentin Jackson, Micah Potter, Isaiah Jackson combined for 5 makes. Ben Shepherd went 2 for 8, right? You need more scoring from that group, and they didn't get it at all. So then they fall down by 10 by the end of the quarter, and it just felt really tough. In a game where shot creation was so tough, if you get into a jump shooting game with the Celtics, you'll lose. Like, that team can really shoot it. And then the little things started to fall apart, right? A lot of pump fakes from the Celtics. Isaiah Jackson's leaping 5 feet in the air. He draws a foul. Tony Bradley committed one. Like that, too, just too much biting at that. And then the Pacers are going really hard to defend the three-point line, which against the Celtics is not a bad idea. They really want to shoot threes. Holding the Celtics to 31 three-point attempts is actually shows some solid game plan execution. Unfortunately, when the Celtics got below the free throw line and drove out of those moments where the Pacers ran them off the line, they got where they wanted. They got into the paint for 48 points in the paint. They got 25 free throws up and were lights out from the foul line. Jaylen Brown missing, the only player to miss from the line for the Celtics in the whole game. And so the combination of the offense with a group that does have nights where their offense can die going away, and the defense where the game plan was clearly try to run them off the line and protect the paint, fell into jumping at misses and couldn't actually protect the paint at all. It all fell apart. So after it was 18-18, very, very pathetic game for a while for the Pacers, who were down over 20 in that half. They were down 23 about 12 minutes after they tied the game at 18, right? They just collapsed in that second quarter, and nothing was going well. They looked horrible on both ends, frankly, in that quarter. Defense was rough. Offense couldn't get the shots. I think there was a 13-0 run for the Celtics, and that was after they closed the first quarter on a 12-2 run, right? So that's a 25-2 run split up in this game. The Pacers, by the way, lost by 15. This is not to say that you just take out those runs and they win. Those were long runs. Like this, and sometimes for the Pacers, it's 40 minutes of good play and 8 minutes of bad. This game was not that. This game was closer to like 50-50 split, but it was really rough how poorly they were playing and falling apart of their game plan execution, where they would start to do what they wanted and then completely could not finish the rim protection parts of it, the staying down, things like that. And open shots were hard to come by, right? So you're down 20 at halftime with minus 10 in both quarters. Just felt all off. And to me, a couple things stood out as the why on offense. One is they couldn't get enough from their main guys. Andrew Nembhard, Celtics have given him fits this season for some reason. He's been high turnovers against them all year. He had 9 points on 11 shots today. He missed 5 threes. He had 3 turnovers. 9 assists is very good. Everything else was not really there for him. Offensively, Aaron Nesmith in the rut of all time. I just talked about this. He'll come up in the notebook again. 0 for 4 from deep in this game. It's just not happening for him right now. Jay Huff, 1 for 4. He's 0 for 3 from 3. And the Huff-Furphy combo was kind of the tilt my eyebrows thing that stood out from this game. Is keep an eye on this for eternity, but really in the short-term future. So the Celtics really pioneered this. If people remember their championship season, everybody talked about how goofy their defensive matchups were. They would always be putting random guys on set. Sam Hauser's guarding a center or a big man's guarding a guard. And they did it a lot because they were, preparing for switches or wanted to confuse a team or whatever it was. So keep that in mind as I talk about what I'm about to talk about, because it could just be that the Pacers played the Celtics. But this has happened before, that teams are not putting their center on Jay Huff against the Pacers starters. Instead, this is one consequence of something I've talked about, which is Johnny Furphy does not shoot very much, right? He's a very good fifth option. That's great. You need fifth options to be a fifth option with that starting five. But that means teams can just plant someone else on him. And early in this game, and for much of this game, Neemias Queta is guarding Johnny Furphy. And Furphy tried to burst through that, right? He was trying to get up to the cup. He was shooting more than he typically does early. He takes 7 shots in this game. So he actually shot at more than Huff. He played more than Huff. He played okay efficiency-wise, right? He had 10 points. He made 2 threes. He had 8 rebounds. I'm not even saying Furphy had a bad game necessarily, but I think the big man on him, the switchable player on Jay Huff, was Jaylen Brown sometimes, right? It felt like the spacing and movement were off for the Pacers offense, and it can't be like that for the starters, given how much struggle they've had with their bench scoring of late. And so I'm going to keep an eye on that as a trend for the Pacers. How much are teams willing to switch those two specifically, Huff and Furphy? And if they do it a lot, what can the Pacers do to counter it? Is it Furphy becomes a more involved screener? Is it Jay Huff just yanks himself out of the play and just is a spacer because this mobile defender is now farther from the basket? Is Jay Huff going into the post more, which was a thing that was helpful for him, but Jaylen Brown's not like a pushover in the paint, because that, sometimes I think a couple things happen. One is it's some new matchup and it does actually kick you up. But 2 is you think about it, you think, oh, Jay Huff's defender is 5 inches shorter than him. Should we go to that? Oh, Johnny Furphy is being guarded by a big. Like, should he be setting the screen? And you just pause for a moment to think about what you do in that reality. And I just think it threw off kind of everything for the Pacers in this game in a way that isn't atypical for them. They've had a bad season for lots of reasons. But you hear, Lloyd Pierce at halftime, he's talking about what the Pacers are doing poorly. In the first half, he says, the shots, basically meaning the making, we can't control. The movement, we can. We got to generate the right shots. The movement wasn't there. They weren't generating the right shots. And so even though they got up 45 threes, they'll be happy with that. They got to the paint enough. They'll be happy with that. They weren't great looks, and they weren't able to make enough of them. It felt like an early season game. They shot under 40% from the field. You can't win that way, especially when your bench defense, which is supposed to be a solid thing that keeps you in games, completely falls apart. So lots went poorly for the Pacers in this game. The Celtics kind of have them figured out, especially when Jaylen Brown plays. Alas, the Pacers are now 10-35. You know who isn't the reason the Pacers lost this game, who I barely brought up in the first segment, is Pascal Siakam, who was absolutely incredible again in this game, a 30-point double-double in a loss. I want to talk about his performance and his all-star candidacy once again to come up here on Locked On Pacers. But first, everybody, we got to talk about TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert start to finish without the stress or guesswork instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms. You can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employment forms, work you through every deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver. Gives real peace of mind knowing that an expert is handling it. So for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. And we are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making this your first listen today and every single day. Your second listen should be Locked On Celtics. John Corrales was in the building in Boston. He will have more on the Celtics victory side of this, why they would be so happy. They played quite well. Hey, if you don't know, there's an Everydayer Club. If you listen every day to Locked On Pacers, this might be perfect for you. The Everydayer Club, lots of perks. No ads. You can hop in an exclusive Discord chat with other Locked On Pacers listeners. Might be quite a first, but a lot of people we posting in there all the time. I'm in there. It'll be a great time. I highly encourage everybody to join. It's a good time. You can find more in the link in the description. Okay, let's keep going here and talk about Pascal Siakam. Whew, man, was he good. 7 of the Pacers' first 16 points, maybe half of their first 18. I might have stopped taking notes at the correct time there. Halftime of the game comes, and the Pacers are down 20, and they're getting their butt kicked. And I'm like, okay, what's really going wrong here? Like, I have my theories. I just talked about them. And he had 16 points on 6 for 12 shooting at the time. The rest of the Pacers had 30 points on 12 for 35 shooting. He made 1/3 of the Pacers' shots in the first half. It is just crazy how good he is, even when bad stuff is happening around him. Like, I'm out of things to say about his level. Caitlin Cooper posted a great screenshot of him in the paint near the rim, and all 5 Celtics defenders are in the paint trying to stop just him. And he still finishes the game with 32 points on 12 for 21 shooting. He made 4 threes, a third of the Pacers' threes, 10 rebounds, 4 assists. The Pacers lost this game by 15 points. Siakam played 33 minutes and was -1. So the other 15 minutes, without him, they were -13. They're basically bleeding a point a minute with him off the floor while he just goes crazy and is awesome and can guard really good players. Like, he's just amazing, right? He has bad games, air quotes, for his standards, certainly, but not very many. He's been in double figures every game this season. He's just so consistent. One of the more consistent, really, really great players that I've ever covered. And they lose again. And that is the constant debate of his all-star candidacy, is that this player is clearly doing a million good things, and he's clearly a very, very good player. And the all-star naming is coming up. Should he make it? Right? Like, I keep making the same case for him. And so if you take stats out of it, let's just talk about the Pacers, right? His consistency is the same argument that got him an all-star spot last year. When they stunk to start last season, Siakam was rock solid every night and gave them good performances and really kept them afloat while Haliburton figured out what was going wrong for him, and the rest of the team figured out how to get back on track. And they started 10-15 because of him. Without Siakam's consistency, they would have started much worse than that. And who knows what their record rises to by the time they're naming all-stars, because it got to the point where they were like, oh, a Pacer has to make it. Siakam's been their most consistent player, and Haliburton had certainly been awesome for a while by that point, but he deserved it. Siakam absolutely deserved it at the time. And this year he's doing that again, right? They stink. The team stinks. It's not good that they stink. They have the worst record in the conference, but he every night is a beast. He's averaging absurd numbers. 23.8 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. He's now cleared those averages. Is ridiculous. To finish up on the internal to the Pacers part, I'm not going to compare on-off numbers across teams. I find that to be a bad way to compare players, but his difference for the Pacers on the court, net rating, -4.5. That's not good. When he's off the court, it's -15.4. 11 points per 100 possession difference. That's how much better Pascal Siakam makes the Pacers. They just fall apart without him on the floor, and that's obviously bad, but that's all to say, yes, their net rating with him on the floor also isn't good, but a -4.5 net rating, to be clear, is like a team that wins 2 out of 5, not a team that's 10-45. For reference, for example, some teams with about a -4.5 net rating include the Bucks, who are 18-24. The Nets, they're bad. The Jazz have a worse net rating than -4.5. They're 15-29, right? There's no team really close to that. There's a bunch of -3 and better teams and a bunch of -6 and worse teams. So I kind of had to find the surrounding teams. Regardless, the hat net rating is like a regular bad team. And if the Pacers were regular bad, I think Siakam's all-star case would be very easy to explain. But they're like horrible bad, and they had 13 losses in a row. And so that is what is obviously holding him back, is that they're 10-35. And who knows what their record will be when all-stars are actually named. But if you think about last year, I've brought this point up before. I went back and looked. The worst team record of any team when a player was named an all-star at All-Stars last year was Wembanyama, who's awesome, right? Who obviously was going to make it. And the Spurs were like, I can't remember exactly. I want to say they were like 20-23. So they were below 500 and 11th, but that's still like a fine record. So of course he's going to make it, right? And I got lucky that I just happened to be tagged in a bunch of responses on Blue Sky of people who were diving through, like trying to find really poor records of guys who were named All-Star. Sharif Abdur, thank you to Michael B8 for doing this. Sharif Abdur-Rahim made it on a 16-33 team. Vince Carter made it the following year on a 14-34 team. 2015, Carmelo Anthony. This might be the Siakam comp, or at least the closest one. 10-43 Knicks. He made it. So it's not like unheard of that a player on a bad team makes it, and the East stinks this year. But that is obviously the thing holding him back, is that the Pacers record is so poor that they just get glanced right over. A lot of people start at the top of the standings and go, okay, who's on that team? Okay, who's on that team? Right? And if you look at the starters who are already named, Jalen Brunson, Jaylen Brown, Cade Cunningham, Tyrese Maxey, and Giannis. Giannis is an undeniably such a good player that it doesn't really matter what that the team's record is. But the other players are on the top teams in the East. Cade Cunningham is on the best team in the East. Jalen Brunson is on the third best team. Jaylen Brown is on the second best team. And Tyrese Maxey is on the sixth best team, who is a half game out of fifth. You get the gist. Like, they are all on winning teams. It's very easy to see them playing well and winning a lot. And you check the standings and you go, oh, that player is the best player on that team. So then those 5 are in. Duh. So that leaves 7 Eastern Conference All-Star spots for the following players. Pascal, these 16 to me are what the 7 are going to come from. Siakam, Norm Powell, Bam Adebayo, Karl Towns, Jalen Duren, Josh Giddey, Donovan Mitchell, lock, Michael Porter Jr., Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, Jalen Johnson, Evan Mobley, Scotty Barnes, Brandon Ingram, Derek White, and Mikal Bridges. 7 of those 16 players are going to be the rest of the All-Stars in the East. So back to Siakam for a second. Let's compare him to his peers. Fun to do. I've done this a million times. So many of you know this argument already, or at least how strong it is in his favor. Let's just go to Pascal Siakam's per game stats and round them down to the nearest half. So that would be 23.5 points per game, 7 rebounds per game, and 4 assists per game. 5 players are doing that in the league this year. 5. Luka, starter in the West. Jokic, starter in the West. Giannis, starter in the East. Deni Avdija, probably going to be an all-star. And Siakam. 5 players, right? That should say something. Now, he's like 30th in points per game, and 7 assists is like 15th or something. None of those are like he's the best at this one thing, but they're all rock solid, all around play. There's only 5 guys doing it. Ironically, all international players, which we'll get to in a second. So his statistical case in the Eastern Conference, by the way, is just him and Giannis. So if you said on just production of the 16 players I just said, I think Norm Powell should be an all-star. This is my own opinion. You can feel free to disagree. Norm Powell, Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Johnson, Scotty Barnes, that's 4 of the 7 to me that like have to be in there. And then Siakam is probably, to me, the next of the group, just on production. Right? Bam's had an odd year. Cat's in a really weird time. Duren might be above him too, but I think people, watched the start of his season be awesome and haven't really watched him since. Josh Giddey's been hurt a bunch. Michael Porter Jr. can really score, but his defense isn't very good. Franz has been hurt. Paolo's been hurt and not maybe as good as the numbers say. Evan Mobley has not been as good as last year. Brandon Ingram has a solid case. Derek White's actually having a down year, but is asked to do a lot more. And Mikal Bridges is like the 4th option on his team. All those guys are good. I think you could argue Siakam is the best of maybe any of these 16 players besides he might be as good as Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell's better than him. I'm talking too fast. He should be among those 7, but I don't think it is like precedent says that he will get overlooked because of the Pacers record. But the East field is not particularly strong, with no offense to any of those players. They're all very good. So someone has to make it. So the thing that might hurt Siakam's chances the most is that already, just from the starters, I think the West starters have 4 international players. I might be doing some math incorrectly. I didn't type their names down. Luka starting, Wemby starting, Jokic starting. That's 3 plus Giannis is 4. That's already half of and I might be missing one. I can't remember. That's already half of the international team. So it's harder. I think it's going to be harder to be named a replacement as an international player this year. So if Siakam doesn't make the original field of 24, him being a replacement might be challenging, especially because it sounds like Jamal Murray has a good case. Danny Avdija has a good case. It's going to be challenging. But he certainly has, like, his purely performance, it's almost impossible to keep him out. But record matters. It is proven to historically matter, and the Pacers' record stinks. So we'll see where this ends up. But this game tonight, a 30-point double-double against one of the best teams in the conference, that is like sole goal number one is stopping Pascal Siakam. And he was just better than everybody else on the floor. He's a beast. He deserves to be recognized for the season he's having, but it might be challenging for him to do so unless the Pacers can somehow rattle off some wins. But I think they're naming the reserves pretty soon. We'll see if he makes it. There's certainly been a lot of chatter from Rick Carlisle campaigning for him. We'll find out maybe soon, maybe later this week, maybe next week. I can't remember the official date. I know it's been announced. We got to talk about other stuff from this game. Jarris Walker played pretty well, 19 points. Look at that. Better stuff that happened in the third quarter. Aaron Nesmith again. Quentin Jackson got hurt. That's not good. Tony Bradley did stuff. We have so much to get to close out today's Locked On Pacers. But first, everybody, we got to talk about Quo. New year, new systems. This is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our businesses and think there has to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades you can make. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Q-U-O, the smarter way to run your business communications, because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. Quo makes everything simple. Your whole team can call and text from one shared business number so nothing gets missed. Everyone sees the full conversation thread. It works right from your phone or computer, and you can keep your existing number. They have AI tools that help log calls, summarize conversations, and highlight next steps. So it's no surprise that Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses. Make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free. Plus, get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/LockedOnNBA. That's QUO.com/LockedOnNBA. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. And we're back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making this your first listen today and every single day your second listen. Locked On NBA Game Night. It's going to be me and Ryan Blackburn later tonight talking about every single game from around the association on Wednesday night. An ugly game of Cavs-Hornets, which is rivalry week stuff. Yeah, baby, the Ball brothers playing against each other. We'll get to all of it. It'll be such a great time. A lot of confusing teams to me played on Wednesday night, so we'll try to get to the bottom of all of them. Okay, we must open the notebook from Pacers Celtics. Sam Hauser was a problem for the Pacers, and it was immediately clear that this was going to be a challenge for the Pacers. He's been on fire of late. He was like really struggling early in the season. Celtics is like, are they going to move his salary? No chance. He had 2 threes very early. He goes 5 for 7 from deep. You got to chase him around the whole game. You give him this much. You can't see if you're listening on audio. An inch of space, he can shoot and score. And the Pacers just had slight delays getting out to him a few times, and he buries 5 threes. He's the only Celtic to make more than 1 3 in the whole game, and he lit it up. He was unbelievable. That was a huge problem for the Pacers. He cannot get an inch. Jarris Walker did a lot of very fun things in this game, but not a lot of them led to actual notes for me, which is on me more than him. He played very well. A lot of it, not a lot. Some of his points came in at time of the game when that was already decided, like pretty late in the fourth quarter. But he hit some threes, 19 points. That doesn't just happen, right? He was wiggling into the paint for some of those like falling shots that he likes to take. He got it in one of those floaters. He finishes with 19 points, 3 boards, 2 assists, and 2 steals with no turnovers. That's about as productive as Jarris Walker can be. I don't think his defense was like so rock solid in this game. He was on the floor for a lot of the Pacers' worst defensive moments. So was Aaron Nesmith, who was minus 28 in this game. But Walker was very productive offensively and just continues to feel like he's like, it's all clicking for him a little bit more, especially more so than it was early in the season. The play in this game that felt the best to me when it comes to that and reinforces my working theory on him is he caught it in transition at the top of the key, and he realized right away that Pascal Siakam was open on his left, and he quickly whipped it over to him after taking a little bit of space below the three-point line, and Siakam drove in for a dunk. Really great pass from Walker to notice that on the move. In a high speed situation, in transition. I still think that everybody knows what I think about. He's better against defenses that are already kind of broken or cracked in some way, and he can finish off the advantage, but especially so when he should not shoot. Like when he knows that his decision should be pass or dribble, he makes the right decision very quickly a lot. And that was certainly a decision where he should be dribbling and then passing. And look at that. He did a great job of it. So really nice outing from him. He was the second leading scorer. Siakam 32, Walker 19. Third was Johnny Furphy with 10. Nobody else gets into double figures. Yikes. Like, that's just not good enough. It's just not good enough on the offensive end. Nembhard's got to be more efficient. Neesmith's got to be more efficient. Look, I tweeted this about Neesmith during the game. I don't think I have any more notes about him. He just, okay, I do. He had a bad miss in this game, a really ugly catch and shoot miss. I did this all last game about how his percentages recently. He's gained like infinite level of trust, right? He was like among the best shooters in the NBA last season. MSG was like his moment of shooting. He's very clearly an awesome shooter who is very clearly slumping very, very hard right now, and it's going to end, but it looks ugly at the moment. I guarantee Aaron Neesmith would be the first to admit that. 3 for 5 on twos is good as he kind of works that into his game more. 4 assists is great, but he's 6 points on 9 shots on and getting caught on the floor in the rough defensive moments. Just not quite the night that Aaron Neesmith would hope to see. Jay Huff, I wonder if this played a factor in his minutes. He got caught on the perimeter defending Jaylen Brown at one point, and actually he didn't stay with him. He got beat, but he was like closer to not getting beat than he usually is on those perimeter ISOs that he gets stuck in. He only played 15 and a half minutes in this game. Couldn't really hit any shots. His statistical production wasn't really there. And they went through this center carousel in this game that was really interesting, right? So they go to Isaiah Jackson, and that did not go well. Very, very poor Isaiah Jackson game. He gets 2 fouls quickly. He finishes with only 2 fouls. He played less than 10 minutes. He had 2 turnovers, and one of them was ugly. He got the ball in the post with Peyton Pritchard on his back. That's great. He's way taller than him. Go for a move. And he backs him down once, and then a double comes, and he tries to turn to pass out of it, and he immediately just loses the ball for an ugly turnover. So the fouls in that were just it was not a good night for Jackson, and he played the least of the centers. But as they kept trying to figure out which center to play, Tony Bradley played, and I thought Tony Bradley was schmoving. Like that, he looked fast, really fast. Maybe it's just because he had to be, because the Celtics spread you out so much, but I thought he was moving very well, which is good. He didn't do as much with it. 1 for 5 from the field can't happen for him. He shoots around the basket so much. His rebounding was fine. He had 3 of them, but they needed a little more from him there. And so I think in his moments they identified they need mobility at the 5. And so finally this carousel lands on Micah Potter, who gets 17 minutes. He led the Pacers centers in minutes. He only made 1 shot. It was right at the basket. He missed 3 threes. They were all pretty open, but he got 8 free throw attempts. 8 that led the game outside of MVP candidate. Not really. Actually, I want to opine on that in a second. But anyway, outside of Jaylen Brown, he took the most free throws of anybody. 9 points, 2 boards. They won his 17 minutes by 2. I just think his defensive mobility and he could get place to place without getting beaten in ISO for fouling like Jackson or not being usually very fast, but feeling fast in this game. Tony Bradley, he was the right option, and they've been sticking with the Huff first, Jackson second, Bradley third rotation. But Potter certainly gets a few points tonight towards his score of the rotation spot because they needed him in this game, and he actually produced a little bit. He was moving around and doing a good job. Ben Shepherd, he went 2 for 8 from 3, and he got cooked a few times by Anthony Simons on the defensive end. Not a good game for Ben Shepherd. That shouldn't even be that tough of a matchup for him, but he could not handle it. 2 for 8, -3 in his minutes. He had 2 assists and no other stats. Quentin Jackson got hurt. Ankle soreness in this game. That's not good. He's been playing in their rotation, deservedly, for the Pacers of late. They kind of shifted those minutes to McConnell and Shepherd and Walker in the second half. We'll see if Cam Jones gets real burn on this road trip. He played garbage time in this game, but he was a good player. He hit a 3 for one of his 2 shots in this game and has been productive of late. So we'll see what that leads to as the Pacers have a finals rematch coming up. And the last note, the third quarter was really good for the Pacers. That was their best quarter of this game by a lot. I think the word that kind of stands out to me with their pace is chaos. Like they're just making the game a little more bouncy and chaotic and weird in a good way. Not chaotic like, this is too fast. Maybe it's too fast for the opponent. And I thought they got the game to that speed in the third quarter, and they couldn't quite sustain it. And a lot of setting pace in a game is literally just making shots, and they did in that quarter. They scored 32 points, but it just felt better. That was the stretch of the game where you saw the Pacers that just won 4 or 5, and then the Celtics were good again in the fourth, and the Pacers lose their 3rd in a row on this road trip. And good, they get the Thunder next, finals rematch. Yeehaw. That'll be tough for them. And then the Hawks, they're going to be stuck in this ice storm over the weekend. So we'll see how that goes. But 2 tougher opponents to close out this trip. Thank you all so much for listening today. You can find me on social media at Tony R. East and this podcast at Locked On Pacers. Back tomorrow, talking more Pacers with a fun guest. Thank you all for listening. We will see you very soon.